Hey, friends. This is episode 30 of the Well Balanced series. So, I've had an episode every single week. And today I'm talking to Holly. Her Instagram is Hobo Wellness, which I think is super cute. And she's a functional nutritional therapy practitioner and also a restorative wellness practitioner. And one of her specialties is gut health and digestion. So that is where we are going to focus in on today. So I'm going to add her into this convo, and you guys know the drill by now. We'll get this thing started. So let me go ahead and invite her. Hey, Holly, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are
Perfect.
good. I'm outside, so if anything gets weird, just let me know.
Oh no, you're fine. And Bo is sleeping right now, so if our nanny's here, but if he wakes up, you might hear him for a second.
Okay, no worries. Super casual.
Perfect.
Where are you located? I don't think I actually knew that.
Yeah, I'm in Midland, Michigan, so kind of like middle of Michigan, hence Midland. So yeah,
Is it cold there yet?
it's been weirdly cold. So it's been 50, like high 50s, mid 60s, and usually like right now this time of year it's like 80s. But it's get early, but I don't know. It's weird. Michigan weather is weird and very, very unpredictable. So right now it's cold, but I have a feeling like the end of the week it'll be 90s again.
Yeah, that's how Georgia is too. We're sitting at around 80 degrees right now, but we'll probably have another 2 or 3 weeks of summer weather, and then it'll have fall for like a week, and then it's winter. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's weird.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Sometimes we completely skip fall.
yeah, exactly. I actually have never been to Michigan. That's one of the states I need to get to. So if I ever come there, I'll hit you up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a fun state.
Well, I'm so excited to finally meet you, and also thank you for joining on with the series. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, of course. So definitely just really, I want to start with a story, see how kind of what got you into this space. Everyone's got that story that kind of drove them away from the conventional space or, something they were always passionate about. So definitely would love to hear that. And then we'll dive in a little bit specifically just about gut health, digestion. I think, it's always a good reminder to see how that process works from here all the way down. And then, those common questions we typically, kind of get asked. So we'll go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just want me to start off with kind of what got me in the space?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, perfect. I got kind of like maybe sophomore, junior, I started to get involved with like changing my diet and not holistically at all, just kind of like the conventional, like you get on like My Fitness Pal and you're like, maybe I want to start like eating or something, kind of just doing random things on my own. And then once I started going there, I got involved in like the CrossFit community, and that started feeling kind of my just looking into just different different beliefs and not like so much conventional. I found like the paleo rabbit hole, like we did paleo for a long time. I got super fit then, and then I graduated college and I got diagnosed with MS. Like as soon as I graduated college, I was getting ready to go to grad school, super stressed. And it kind of just blew up my entire plan of what I had to do with my life. So that's really what fueled me looking into kind of like the functional world, the holistic world, changing my diet, and everything. And since this happened in the midst of me graduating college and not starting my career, I was planning on going to grad the entire time. My doctors were like, you should not start grad school. Like it's way too stressful,
Wow.
which is really nice that they really played managing stress. And yeah, my doctor just sat me down. She's like, you shouldn't go to grad school. So I was like, what do I do? So I like shifted very quickly, and I started doing hair. I went to hair school because I was just like, this will be easier than
Oh,
going to
wow.
grad school. I will tell you it is not. It is very hard and very stressful.
I've
So I
always
did
thought
hair
about
for,
being a hairdresser, and I was like, yeah, this is a lot of work, I feel like. Interesting that you say that.
no, I always give so much credit to them because it is very hard. stressful job. So I did that for a while, and then I started having some like problems with my health. I ended up having like a stem cell transplant. So I very much followed like, I feel like I intertwined like the holistic approach with also like I did take like prescription medicines to manage MS. I did get a stem cell transplant, which isn't the norm, but it still is a little bit conventional medicine, I guess, with my plant. But I didn't want to go back to doing hair after that because it was definitely a time period where I had to take a step back. I couldn't work. It consumed a year of my life. I had to live in Chicago to get this transplant. I couldn't be around other people because I got an entire new immune system. So then I was like, I don't want to go back to doing hair. It's not what I'm passionate about. I've always been passionate about like health and wellness. Like even when I was going through college, kind of like I mentioned, but I know how to do it more holistically versus being like a nurse or something like that, if that makes sense. Right. And then I really paid attention in my time off. I just like paid attention to just like a lot of different health accounts, listened to like a lot of podcasts, and I kept hearing about like the NTA and all of that. And I looked further into that, and I loved their approach of uses a lot of science. It uses a lot of like you learn how the body functions. It uses a lot of like ancestral based nutrition. I love that it was like aligned a lot with like the Weston Price Foundation, really kind of what drove me to pursuing the NTA. And then after that, I really wanted to incorporate like functional lab testing into my practice, what drove me to look into restorative wellness. And with gut health, like with MS and autoimmunity in general, I mean, there's a lot that plays into it, but gut health is an aspect of that. So that's really what got me to kind of specialize and focus on gut health, and also something that I've struggled with my entire life. I've always had horrible digestion. So it's something that I can really relate to regardless if someone has autoimmunity or not.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I love that again, everyone's story leads them to their niche and like what they're passionate about. And I think it's really interesting. Did I miss what were you studying nutrition and going for a master's in that, or was it something completely different?
No, I actually, so I started off with college with nursing. That's what I originally planned to do, and I went to a big university, and it was from a really small school. I went to a big university, and I kind of like jumped like too fast, too soon. We're like completely over my head, I guess. So I shifted and ended up majoring in elementary education. So it was completely different, and I was going to go to grad school for HR because I got to almost graduated with my elementary ed degree, and I was just like, I do not want to be a teacher. So I had a lot of like career changes, a lot of like just I changed my mind a lot, and I never really found what I truly loved until I started doing what I'm doing now.
No, yeah, similar story on my end. Like they didn't have a nutrition program at my college, so I ended up doing like a mass communication, advertising, marketing kind of thing. Which I don't regret. It was very applicable to a lot of different things, but it's so crazy how we always go back to where we really wanted to start, which was that I didn't want to transfer, but I was, wanting to do it. So I'm glad it led me down that path now. But yeah. So when did you finish are you the first level of restorative wellness? And when did you finish that?
No, I've done level 1 and level 2. Okay. I plan on doing level 3, probably not anytime soon. I'm doing a different functional blood chemistry course right now. I just like learning from different people, so I just like limit myself all to the RWS. I probably will go back and do blood chemistry from them too eventually, but right now I just am working with someone else to do blood chemistry, and I'm super excited about that. So yeah, I'm only at level 2, and I kind of paused, but eventually I'll do level 3.
No, okay, makes sense. I feel like it's a lot. Very packed in, so you gotta space it out. But I did want to ask about your journey with MS too. Like, have you seen, support there after you kind of addressed those symptoms? Like, where are you at now versus when that originally started?
I was in like a pretty bad place for a while when it originally started, but so yes, I focus a lot on gut health, but I think part of my problem was I talk about this a lot, like stop hyper focusing on just your gut health. And I was so like, it was in my head, like, oh my gosh, my gut is so messed up. I didn't even know what gut health was at that, but I was just like, I think I have candida, and I think I have all of these things, and I have leaky gut, and I have all of these food sensitivities, and it's like that's causing these problems. And I was like super restrictive diets. I followed like the Walls protocol, which if you're familiar with that at all, which I think they touch on that a little bit in the NTA now. It's pretty restrictive. It's like a very restrictive form of paleo, I guess, which has its place. It served a lot of good in my time, but for me, it wasn't a forever thing, I guess. But I was so like dialed into like this idea that it has to be the food that's causing this. It has to be my gut health that's causing this. When all reality, take a step back, incredibly stressed every single day. Like doing hair stressed me out so much. And then just this diagnosis that I didn't know how to navigate, and I didn't have any support, stressed me out so much. And I was focused on that every single day. I was always scared about what was going to happen to me. So yeah, like once I learned to better manage stress, I think that was like the biggest thing. It was huge for me to better managing my stress. And yes, obviously learning how to optimize digestion has been huge, but also things like balancing my blood sugar so that's not causing gut dysfunction that way. That was a huge thing to me too, because like even before I was eating like all of these paleo things, but sweet potato for breakfast. And that's it, you know, and that has a huge impact on your blood sugar, and then kind of the trickle down effect that's going to negatively affect because stress hormones are elevated. So there's so many. I just think learning not to focus on my gut and focus on the whole body was huge for me.
No, I agree. I definitely think that people, they zone in, and I also think these are one quick fix, right? And it's just, oh, well, I'm going to fix my gut and be done. And it's like, no, this is a forever recurring process, and you have to really identify those triggers. And like you said, stress, I think people just don't realize is such a big part. So like when you work with clients, you know, what are some of your like go-to stress relief that kind of really has seen a lot of support within the gut health and digestion realm, but also just holistic health in general?
So stress, you cut out for a second, stress management, things that have really helped with people.
Yeah.
With clients. Yeah. So I think so many people don't eat breakfast, and that's huge. So many women skip breakfast, or they're eating, you know, you talk about having like protein, fat, and carbs, and I'll talk to clients and, you know, they're like, I have protein, I have like an egg for breakfast. And I have to take a step back. We have to take a step back and think like one egg is only 6 grams, very, very little. And that's 60 calories. Like that is not enough to fuel a full-grown adult female. So that's huge, is just eating enough and balancing meals, like truly balancing them, and not just saying like, oh, I have some protein in my peanut butter, or I have, because it's not enough. That is a huge one. Another big thing is just getting sunlight every day. That's another huge one. Gentle movement. And for people who do want to work out, I work with a lot of people that I feel like really burn themselves their workouts, and they're you know, they're eating 1,200 calories a day, and then which used to be me, eating, you know, 1,200 calories a day, and then going to CrossFit, and then going and doing sprints at night, like barely eating enough to function if I was a sedentary person. So working on those types of things. And also a big thing for me is realizing things that are out of your control, and that stressing about it really, like, it doesn't have any purpose for the things that like you like does not help you in any way for things that you can't control. And that's a huge thing. And that was probably the biggest for me personally when I was learning stress, is just, again, taking a step back and being like, can I do anything about this? Like, what is about this? How does this impact the situation? And you realize that you stressing and worrying about it doesn't have any impact to that situation whatsoever. So just letting go of what you control was a really, really big thing for me. That took a lot of work for me, but for me personally, that has made differences, just like pausing and kind of reevaluating such a control.
No, I think that's awesome. I think that's such a big thing that I hear as well. And it's also like, you know, things like traveling, you know, like a lot of anxiety between those kinds of things, but it's like, we don't even know how they're going to pan out. So why are we getting ourselves worked up about it? And again, it just makes it
Right.
worse, right? Like I even have been dealing like with a little bit like something's off, but it's definitely, I've noticed that I've gotten myself worked up about small things that there's no point to be worked up about. So it's interesting how it's all very connected, but I think that you're spot on. Like we tend to just try to control the uncontrollable, and it's not ever going to be healthy. So that's interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just like dive into digestion in general. So if you can break it down, as simply as possible for those listening, that, just understanding how this process works, where those focal points are, and, some of your top tricks to kind of support the body within the whole process.
Absolutely. So really, I think a lot of people forget that digestion, it starts in your brain. So digestion starts before you even start eating, before you even put food in your mouth. And that is really, it's a big part of digestion that's skipped for a lot of people, because a lot of people are eating on their way to work, or eating while they're walking out the door. They're eating while they're watching TV. I find myself doing this all the time. I'm running around chasing my 1-year-old and trying to shove food in my mouth, and I have to realize that and pause and be like, okay, like, I mean, it's a season of life that, it is what it is, but also, like, as much as I can, like, I have to remind myself to food, stop, sit down to eat as much as I can. So yeah, we really have to remember time to smell our food, to look at our food. A lot of people just kind of skip the preparation process, and I get, like, in our modern world that happens, but I think it happens more often than it needs to. So, like, using your senses, I guess, so just eating, that way your brain can send signals to your stomach, start producing all of those digestive juices that need to be produced for the digestive process to work correctly. And then again, another big thing that gets forgotten or overlooked is you need to chew your food then, because there's these enzyme juices, I'll just call them, in your mouth, that help to start down food. And if you skip those two processes, then you're going to get dysfunction further south. So you're going to get dysfunction in your stomach, because one, you're probably not going to be making enough stomach acid, which stomach acid is very, very important to break down food. And then when that doesn't happen, then you're going to have undigested food from one, not chewing them and not producing the correct or enough of the digestive juices to be able to break down those foods. And then that causes what's called, like, leaky gut, because these undigested foods are going to escape into your bloodstream when they're not digested properly, or when your gut is functioning. So then really, when those things don't happen, when you are not chewing your food, when you're not paying attention, when you're highly stressed while you're eating, you're going to get dysfunction later on down south in your stomach, and then your intestines as well, because when those food particles aren't digested, then you start feeding things like bad bacteria. They're really going to start feeding on these undigested carbohydrates that are in your intestines later on down in the process, that aren't necessarily meant to be there, or in those sizes, or just undigested in general. It just kind of creates a lot of, like, fermentation and essentially, like, rotting of the food. It's going rancid in your in your intestines, and it's just creating a further south. And that's when people get a lot of those digestive symptoms, like bloating, constipation, heartburn. Whether like what your symptom is, it's all kind of a cause of digestive dysfunction. And some people will have it, they might have it further north in their digestive symptoms, and let's say like heartburn. Some people might have it further south when they're not going to the bathroom regularly. But it all kind of proliferate. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied. It all kind of happened from just digestive function in general, and not producing the correct amount of stomach acid or digestive enzymes to help with the pH of the digestive process, which I think is often overlooked, like having those correct pHs at the right time to just make enough stomach acid or neutralize stomach acid. And that plays a huge role in the digestive process as well.
That's a great explanation. And somebody did ask, like, kind of how do you know if you're low in stomach acid or digestive enzymes? Are those things that you can address from, without supplementation, kind of like testing? What's your typical route there?
So for me, most people don't make enough stomach acid, so you can kind of that. Yep, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say for me, I look at a lot of symptoms to see, like, are these symptoms causing to make enough stomach acid? But I've never had a client who is producing enough stomach acid. I think almost, I don't want to say everyone and just make a generalized assumption, but can work on stomach acid in some form. And no, you don't always have to have supplementation, and hopefully you don't have to have supplementation long term. But doing those basic things like taking deep breaths before you eat, making sure you're in a relaxed state before you eat, smelling your food before you eat, chewing your food enough, all of those things will help with stomach acid production because you're supporting the body's natural digestive process that it's meant to go through. And also eating enough protein is huge. A lot of people undereat in protein, but protein really fuels that stomach acid production, along with having a mineral rich diet. Because people who are deficient in minerals, I know you know this because you do a lot of stuff with HTMA. When you're deficient in minerals, you're not going to be having enough stomach acid. So you can actually look at that through an HTMA. It's not going to say like an exact thing like you're not having enough stomach acid. A lot of assumptions through their mineral levels and mineral ratios. Again, that's kind of how you can make that assumption with symptoms too, like heartburn, gas, bloating, constipation, not being hungry in the morning. All of those things are a big sign to us as practitioners that our clients are not making enough stomach acid.
So when they do implement these things, is that something that they have to do long term, like you said, or like can it be long term, or is it something that kind of gets you to a certain point and then you can kind of keep up with those natural signals?
Like long term supplementation.
Yeah, like if you're low in stomach acid, does that mean you're always low in stomach acid, or is there?
No, you can definitely add practices into your lifestyle to help to encourage stomach acid production, like those basic simple tips that I just mentioned. All of those things need to be done long term, definitely, like for the rest of your life, to kind of keep up with stomach acid production, because you always need to have stomach acid production. It's not just a temporary thing that you need to have while you're working through things. But things and like stomach acid support, that type of thing, they don't always need to be done, but they can kind of help. They can help to start getting your body to support stomach acid production when your body's not there yet. They kind of help to bridge the gas, is what I'm saying. So
yeah,
even things like lemon juice and apple cider vinegar, those kinds of things can help to support those. And things like lemon juice and apple cider vinegar, like those can always be used while you're working through things, but even like in like past, you can use it as kind of a tool. And when you work with a practitioner, you can kind of like learn to tune into your body and know like, oh wow, like I'm having these signs again, like maybe I'm extra stressed right now, maybe I'm not paying attention to my meals, maybe I need to use like lemon juice mixed with water, apple cider vinegar mixed with water for a little bit to help support stomach acid production. But I don't think it's something that has to be done forever, like for the rest of your life. You don't have to drink apple cider vinegar mixed with water before your meals for the rest of your life, but it can really be a helpful tool with bridging the gap while you're working through things.
Okay, that makes sense. And then someone else asked about acid reflux, and I think this kind of goes into the stomach acid conversation. So if you want to touch on that symptom and kind of what that looks like, I think that's something that most people don't understand exactly what's going on internally. So if you can clarify that.
Yeah, so we have a lot of different valves and sphincters. They're kind of like levers that work digestive process, and they're very pH specific. So a lot of people, when they're having when they're having acid reflux, or they have this burning sensation in their eye, and they think I have way too much acid because they have this really uncomfortable burn. But in all reality, our stomach is designed to be very, very acidic. Once it is mixed with food, which is called chyme, it is designed to be the pH of 1.5 to 3. So that's very, very acidic, and our actual stomach acid is very similar to like the pH of battery acid. So it's meant to handle a lot. However, our upper GI or our esophagus is not acidic. So when our stomach is not the correct pH, those valves and sphincters that I mentioned, they're not triggered. The pH is what triggers them, so it doesn't let food move through. So it will cause a lot of like buildup of gases in our stomach, and it'll push on our esophagus, on the valve. All of those, like that stomach acid, those digestive juices, it'll backflow into our esophagus, and that burn. It burns because it's not meant to be there. And yes, it is too acidic for that part of your digestive system. However, when it gets in your stomach, it's really meant to be even more acidic than what it is. And the reason why it's coming up is because it's not acidic. Really supporting that stomach acid production and creating more stomach acid, not less, really helps to why that is happening. And like with acid suppressors or PPIs, that type of thing, they stomach acid, or they will kind of neutralize it, and they will help with that esophagus burn that people will experience. So it'll help with the symptoms. However, it's not addressing it is the root cause. But I guess what's causing that burn to begin with, because it's getting you hooked on like an endless cycle of always needing that stomach acid suppression, because you're not ever getting to the right pH. So it's always kind of going to cause that burn, that backflow getting up into your throat, because it was never able to reach the right pH to begin with. Does that make sense? It's kind of hard to explain sometimes.
No, yeah, that makes sense. And for somebody like on a PPI, which I think is like overprescribed, but do you feel like through lifestyle and through gut health and just, healing in general, that people are able to transition off at, a future point?
Yeah, I think working with the practitioner is really, really helpful. And obviously when people are on meds, as NTPs, as FNTPs, the purpose of us is not to treat, diagnose, or cure. So you definitely have to like work with your doctor a little bit and let them know your plan, that you do want to go off of it and if it's right for you. But working with a practitioner is really helpful to know, like, okay, what's the root cause that's causing you not to acid? How can we support stomach acid moving further? And a lot of people do have a lot of healing work before they can kind of start extra stomach acid production, because there's like ulcerations in their upper GI that need to be healed before moving forward. So just directly going in and adding something like HCl to someone who's been struggling with acid reflux for a while can be a little bit problematic, because you're probably not going to feel very good doing it, and it might cause a little bit more harm than good, versus, you have to start with the healing work first, with kind of healing up any of those ulcerations that you might have before you can introduce any type of stomach acid, or just even encourage a lot of stomach acid production. So yeah, it's definitely, I think everybody's a little bit biased on how that has to be approached, but definitely something that can be done, and can help with your digestive health and overall wellness, because again, that, like, your stomach acid has so much to do with nutrient absorption. So you have to think, right, like when you are on those PPIs long term, like how, even though you're eating the healthiest diet in the world, which you might be, those nutrients are you missing out on because you don't have adequate stomach levels to be able to digest and absorb that food.
No, absolutely. I definitely think that that's been part of my journey as well. Just knowing, it's like, I'm eating a good diet, but I'm not sure not everything is being absorbed. So it's something that I'm currently working through as well. So, like you said, very common issue with today's food industry and all the things that we're dealing with. So leaving with a final question, if you could list like your top 3 favorite, gut supportive foods, things people can incorporate at home really easily, and then just also how people can get in touch with you, work with you further, and kind of keep up with what you're doing.
Yeah, so okay, let me think for a second. My favorite foods. One that doesn't get talked about a lot with about. I love unrefined sea salt. That can help a lot with stress management, can help a lot with stomach acid production. It's one of the first minerals that really needs to be paid attention to when you're trying to balance minerals. But it, again, like, it's very, very helpful with stomach acid production as well. So I love just having clients, like, it's one of the very first things I do with a lot of clients is having like incorporating unrefined sea salt into their diet. But one of the easiest ways to do that, to get a little bit extra of that, is just doing like big pinches of that unrefined sea salt to your water. It's a huge thing that they preach at the NTA, which I'm sure you know that too.
Sea salt
a big
in
one
my
for
water.
me. Yes, absolutely, same. Another one I love bone broth. Bone broth is a big, I will use a lot. It's not always right for everybody. You definitely have to be at the right stage in your healing journey, just because sometimes people will have an issue with like histamines and such. In general, I love bone broth for really healing and sealing that gut lining, and just introducing an anti-inflammatory amino acid into the diet. And then another one that I really, really like that gets, okay, I'm going to give you 4, I guess, because this is going to go right along with it. I love aloe vera too, just for the same reason of bone broth. It really helps to heal and seal that gut lining. But I also love organ meats and beef liver. I think that is just really underutilized, and it's not talked about enough. And in our modern diet, people don't consume organ meats at all. It's just one of the most nutrient dense foods that you can really, has so many of the different nutrients that we need just to optimally thrive, that are missing out in today's standard American diet that a lot of the population just doesn't get. So I love incorporating, organ meats. Again, that's like it's a bioavailable protein too, and that's one of the things that is really underconsumed that helps with stomach acid production.
Do you feel like the quality of a capsule versus like the real organ meat is the same for those that maybe can't stomach the real thing?
I think if you can't do the real thing, which it took me a while to get in the habit of, adding it to like my ground beef or that kind of thing. I think starting out with desiccated is a great option. And even if you don't move past desiccated ever, I think you're still getting a heck of a lot more nutrients than if you were to completely forego organ meats at all. So I think it's a great option for a lot of people. If you can do the real thing, great. But if you can't, it's your next best bet.
Makes sense.
Yeah. You asked me 2 parts of that question, and I only answered the first part. I can't remember what was the other one.
No, you're good. No, I was just gonna say that can definitely wrap up the conversation, but that was all really interesting. And I think this industry and this topic can be very complicated and hard for people to understand. So I think that you did a great job explaining it in a really easy way, and of course can work with you further if they have questions. But so I just want to leave with like how they can work with you, what you have to offer, and how they can stay connected with what you're doing.
Yeah, so right now I'm primarily focusing on the easiest way to get a hold of me is to follow me on Instagram. That is usually where I see the majority of my messages. You can email me, which is on my website. However, I feel like I'm sure you can relate. I see Instagram DMs by emails. And then I also have my website too, where you can learn a lot working with me one-on-one. And that is
perfect.
hollybonewellness.com, and that's in the link in my profile on Instagram.
I love your handle, by the way. That's so cute.
Thank you. So many people, I feel sometimes I'm so embarrassed of it because so many people don't relate that it's just like my name shortened up. And
at first I was like,
I've got so many.
At first I was definitely your page and saw the name, and I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah. It just like all the Holly Bowens on Instagram are taken, like every single name you can think of. And me and my husband made my Instagram name. We couldn't figure it out for the longest. So I just made it with the intention that I would probably change it. Then I just never changed it. And it's just stuck with me from there.
I love it. That's how mine was too. It's just like, this works. It makes sense. It's
Yeah.
people will recognize it. So whatever. Well, I
Yeah,
am so
absolutely.
thankful for your time and look forward to connecting further from our journeys in general. And if I can support you in any other way, let me know. But hope you have a great rest of your week.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Thank you so much for having me on. It was so fun.
Of course. Thanks, Holly. Talk to you soon.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
Bye.